to this workshop this weekend, and it was a workshop for mediumship, which is something that is new to me, but always something that I've been curious about and have incorporated in my life as far as I go to mediums, but I've never actually practiced that myself. And so this workshop was so transformative, and I want to share with you 5 takeaways that I received from this workshop and just being surrounded by such amazing people. And the woman who tutored it was just so inspirational and connected with spirit the entire time. And there are so many truths that just resonate with me. And I want to share with those with you today. But before I get into that, I just want to share with you the transformation that I saw in myself and others, and how in just 2 days, you can literally become a new version of yourself. And I want to share that with you because it's such a common misconception that things have to be hard and take a long time. And while things do take practice, the transformation that I saw in that 2-day period is profound. And I saw it in each person that was part of that. And when I first walked in, there were about 16 of us. And for many of us, this was something that was new. So we were all coming out of our comfort zone. And the first activity that we did in the workshop was quieting our mind, allowing whatever messages that came to us to come to us, and to share that with our partner. And what I found that so many of us had these concrete expectations for ourselves. We were putting so much pressure on ourselves to have some message for our partner and be able to be successful at this, even though it was our first time doing this. And it was that pressure that we put on ourselves that made it challenging to progress forward. And even for myself, it's like, okay, like, what am I looking for? Am I doing it right? What do I need to change? It was a lot of mind chatter that I was experiencing at that time. And what was amazing as the weekend progressed is that as you start to give yourself more grace and lighten those expectations, things just started to flow easier. And I could see that with so many people in the workshop too, is that they just kind of let things go. They started to just trust the process and they started to trust themselves. And towards the end of the workshop, so many of us were actually receiving messages from spirit. We were receiving messages that were just so comforting and warming and so truthful for, sharing with the people that we were with. And there was such a bond in this group and such a respect for each other. And there was such an energy in the room that was just palpable. You could literally feel the energy in this room as everyone started to expand and open themselves up to something new and started to trust themselves and give themselves that grace and started to understand that there's much more to this world than we may even think. And so 5 messages that I took from that workshop was, one, that we have to learn to quiet our minds. And this is something that for years has always been challenging for me and something that I've had to actively practice. We are bombarded by information. Every second, our phone is pinging, there are lights going off, someone trying to talk to us, stimulus everywhere. And so it can be easy for us to get distracted and pull our attention in other ways. And it's only when we practice to have that focused attention that we really can feel anchored in ourselves. And that was something that was so eye-opening to me in that workshop through the weekend, in that I did barely touch my phone all weekend. And it was the most freeing I felt, like releasing myself from using the phone. I said to myself, I will not pick up the phone all weekend. I actually put it on do not disturb. And it was just so nice to have the capacity and the agency to focus my attention on what I wanted to focus on. And it was that disruption in the cycle that made me realize that, like, I don't know if I want to go back to my phone to the extent that I was before. Not that I was using it excessively, but I just want to limit it even more. I felt so free after this weekend. And so that was something that was really eye-opening to me, the power to quiet our minds, especially when we limit some of these distractions that we have, and we start to feel what that feels like when we actually do have more of a quiet mind. Number 2 was get out of your own way. This was something that was challenging in the beginning. And I saw many of the other people express this as well, that when we had these expectations for ourselves and our minds started going and we have these limiting beliefs that are coming up and trying to control the situation, it became more challenging. We literally were getting in our own way of trying to allow ourselves to experience this process in the way that it was intended. And so the minute we started to just let everything go, stop trying to control it, just let it be. Whatever comes will come, and just accept it as it is. That's when the magic started happening. So the second takeaway I'm coming home from this weekend with is get out of your own way. There are so many things that you're going to hold yourself back from. And innately, you have this amazing ability within yourself. You have this beautiful self-worth that sometimes we shroud and cover with all these things that we've accumulated throughout our life. And if we can just get out of our own way, we have such a beautiful power within ourselves to create and feel a whole new life for ourselves. Number 3 that I learned was trust yourself. So this was something through this process, and this is something that I've been cultivating for years, is that self-trust. And it's can be really challenging if you felt like you haven't trusted yourself, or maybe you've trusted others more than yourself for years. And through this workshop, I felt like I gained a new appreciation of self-trust, in that when you quiet your mind and you feel like you're receiving these messages and just these things would just, there's like an inner knowing that you have in this experience. And it may feel, and I felt like this in the beginning of like that self-doubt, like, was that real? Like, is that just me making it up? Am I just, what is this, But as I progressed through the weekend, I started to trust these messages, started to trust myself, and just let go and allow it to happen. And it was through that self-trust that it just felt like I was anchoring into myself, that there was just this deep truth within myself. And it felt so empowering to have just this inner experience that only you know how that feels, and to really just trust and lean into it. And it gave me a whole new appreciation for self-trust. Number 4 is send yourself and others love. This was such a huge part of the weekend, and just sending that energy to others, sending love to yourself, sending love to others in the process, because we're all in this workshop with the same intention of trying to create a new meaning for our lives, and trying to understand ourselves and others, and trying to create a deeper connection. And some of us were having a hard time with some areas, and it's like that love that we could send to each other just opened everything up. It just gave everybody grace to feel into it and just to allow it to unfold naturally. And that love that we sent to ourselves, to realize like we are coming a far way in just a short period of time, and what we've learned and grown and how far we've grown in just a short period of time, it's amazing. And so that love energy is palpable, just literally 16 strangers in the beginning. And then we all very much felt connected towards the end. It was an absolutely amazing time. And number 5 is, how can I serve others? This was such an eye-opener to me in the messages that came through, because the tutor who ran it, the first thing she said is like, why are you here? And, many had reasons, myself included, of like, I want to learn this, I want this. And she really said, like, this is an opportunity for spirit to convey their messages, and that you are really serving the spirit world in a way that they can finally have a voice to come down to this realm. And it really just made me see things so differently, in that there's a whole new level of serving others. And that if we can just quiet our minds and be receptive, that we can receive beautiful messages and share those with the world. Messages of healing, messages of love, messages of just truth. And it really is us serving a whole greater entity, not only serving the spirit world, but also serving this world. And that there's beautiful messages that we have to, and we have the responsibility to share and spread and raise each other's consciousness one step at a time. And so it was just such a transformational weekend. And I wanted to share those messages with you, because I think we can often just get stuck in our own heads. We can often just feel like life is just on autopilot and we're going and going and going. And like, what is this all about? And why am I working this hard? Why am I in this life? What is my purpose? What's my existence? How do I cultivate self-worth? And we can get so frazzled in all the things of trying to feel more fulfilled. And it was really in these moments that these quiet moments, these, just sitting there and allowing and trusting and loving and giving ourselves grace, that there was so much transformation. So instead of getting stuck in the do, it was really just a weekend of like, I'm going to be, and that's okay. And it was that workshop that held space for that. And I feel like I am not the same person coming out of it as I was going into it. And so I want to share that, because if you have an opportunity to sit and just quiet your mind and give yourself some love, start to trust yourself, start to give yourself some grace, wherever you can make that first step, I want to invite you to do that, because it really will catapult you in a different direction. And it's all those things that allow us to start to live a different life and feel more free within our lives, and realize that even though the day-to-day activities and hustle and bustle and everything that we're doing can feel overwhelming, that there's so much more to this than maybe we realize. And if we can start to live life from that perspective and realize that we serve a greater purpose than we even realize ourselves, that's when we can start to really feel more peace within ourselves and start to trust ourselves and live and love and feel more harmonious in our life. So I want to share that with you. And again, just to recapture those 5 things that I've learned and I want to share with you, is that the practice of quieting your mind, getting out of your own way, trusting yourself, loving yourself and others, and learning how you can serve others. Those 5 things, if you can even just take one of those and focus on that and start to direct some energy towards one of those, your life will be different tomorrow than it is today. I hope this helps.